Story 1. The porcelain doll's Easter estate sale smelled like mothballs and regret. I wasn't looking for anything specific that Saturday morning in October. My apartment needed character. Something vintage to offset the sterile white walls. That's when I saw a Hera porcelain doll perched on a velvet cushion in the corner of the master bedroom. She was exquisite, Victorian era, with a cream lace dress and ringlets of auburn hair. But it was her eyes that stopped me cold. Glass eyes, painted with such precision that they seemed to follow my movement across the room. "That one's free," the estate organizer said behind me, making me jump. She was an older woman with tired eyes. "Take it. Please." "Free. It looks valuable." Mrs. Hendricks wanted it gone, insisted on it in her will. She lowered her voice. "Between you and me, she was terrified of that thing the last few months. Kept saying it watched her sleep. I should have walked away. Every horror movie I'd ever seen started exactly like this. But the doll was beautiful, and I convinced myself the old woman had simply been senile. I took her home. The first night, I placed the doll on my bedroom dresser, angled toward the wall. I'm not superstitious, but having those glass eyes pointed at my bed felt wrong. At 3:17 a.m., I woke to the sound of porcelain scraping against wood. My bedroom was dark, except for the streetlight filtering through my curtains. I lay perfectly still, listening. The sound came again, a slow, deliberate drag of ceramic on the dresser's surface. I fumbled for my phone, turned on the flashlight, and aimed it at the dresser. The doll faced my bed now. Those painted eyes stared directly at me. My mouth went dry. I'd positioned her toward the wall. I was certain of it. Old houses settle, I whispered to myself. Though my apartment was only 5 years old, vibrations from the street. Datese, ol. I got up, turned the doll back toward the wall, and checked that the dresser was level. It was. I even placed a small piece of tape on the dresser to mark the doll's exact position. Sleep didn't come easy after that. The next morning, the tape was broken. The doll faced my bed again, but this time she'd moved 6 inches closer to the edge of the dresser. I called my sister, Emma. She was the rational one, the chemist who explained away every ghost story with logic and science. "You probably moved it in your sleep," she said over the phone. "Sleepwalking." "Stressed as that." "I don't sleepwalk." "How would you know?" "You're asleep." I could hear her smiling. "Look, if it bothers you, put it in a closet." That night, I locked the doll in my hall closet, wedging her between winter coats. I even took a photo of her position with my phone, time-stamped and everything, at 3:17 a.m. I woke to my bedroom door creaking open. The hallway light was off. I never left it off. In the darkness, I could hear something small and hard clicking against the hardwood floor. Footsteps. Tiny footsteps. Click-click-click. Click-dog, my breath caught in my throat. The footsteps stopped at the foot of my bed. I couldn't move, paralyzed by a primal fear I'd never experienced before. I lay there, staring at the dark shapes standing in the shadows. Then I heard a child's voice, but wrong, like a music box winding down. "Why did you turn me away?" I lunged for the light switch. The lamp blazed to life, flooding my bedroom with harsh yellow light. Nothing was there. But on my nightstand, inches from my face, sat the porcelain doll. Her dress was dirty now, covered in dust from the closet floor, and her expression, I swear it had changed. The painted smile seemed wider, more knowing. I grabbed the doll and ran to my car in my pajamas. I didn't care that it was 3:30 in the morning or that my neighbors might see me. I drove to the nearest dumpster behind a 24-hour grocery store and threw her in. The thud of porcelain hitting metal gave me more satisfaction than it should have. I went home, locked every door, checked every window. Finally, around 5 a.m., exhaustion won and I fell asleep on my couch. I woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee from the apartment next door. My phone showed 11:23 a.m. I'd slept through my alarm, but I didn't care. The nightmare was over. I walked into my bedroom to get dressed for work. The doll sat on my dresser, exactly where I'd first placed her. But now, dried mud clung to her dress and small scratches covered her porcelain face, as if she'd clawed her way out of something. And in the daylight, I could see what I'd missed before teeny. Almost invisible words etched into the base of her neck. Picked her up with shaking hands and read the inscription. Made for Margaret Hendricks, 1924. May she never be alone. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Static. Then that music box voice. I've been alone for so long. Now, you'll keep me company. The line went dead. That was 3 weeks ago. I've tried everything, burning her, burying her, leaving her in another state. She always comes back. Always at 3:17 a.m. Always with that same scraping sound. Last night, I woke to find her sitting on my chest, her glass eyes inches from mine. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. She was so much heavier than porcelain should be. We're friends now, she whispered. Forever friends. When I finally gasped air back into my lungs, she was back on the dresser. This morning, I noticed something new. In my bathroom mirror, standing just behind my reflection, I can see her. Even when she's in the other room, even when I'm not, I checked the security camera footage. She's always there now, always watching. And yesterday, I felt something I can't explain. When I picked her up to move her, my hand tingled. Not painfully, but like a connection forming. And for just a moment, I understood what Mrs. Hendricks must have felt. The doll isn't cursed. She's lonely. And loneliness, I'm learning, is far more dangerous than any curse. Because now, when I look at her, I don't feel fear anymore. I feel ... companionship. Like maybe having her around isn't so bad. My sister hasn't returned my calls in days. I think I mentioned the doll too many times, but that's okay. I have a friend now. Last night, I moved the doll to the pillow beside mine. She looked peaceful there. Right at 3:17 a.m., I didn't wake up, but my security camera caught something interesting. It shows me sitting up in bed, eyes open but vacant, having a conversation with empty air. Smiling. Laughing. The footage shows me carefully braiding the doll's hair, whispering to her like she's real. The footage shows me taking a knife from my kitchen. The footage shows me carving something into my forearm, though I don't remember doing it this morning. I found the words etched in my skin. May she never be alone. The cuts don't hurt. They should, but they don't. I'm looking at the doll now as I write this. She's smiling at me. I'm smiling back. My sister is coming over tonight. She sounded worried on the phone. Said I haven't been myself. But I've never felt more like myself. The doll wants to meet her. I think they'll be great friends. After all, everyone needs a companion. Everyone. Everyone. Story 2. The inheritance. Mira the lawyer's office smelled like old paper and expensive cologne. Your uncle's estate was substantial, Mr. Pemberton said, sliding documents across his mahogany desk. The house in Millbrook, various antiques, some stocks. But there's one item he specifically bequeathed to you. He pulled out a photograph of an ornate mirror floor length, framed in black and silver with intricate carvings of faces twisted in expressions I couldn't quite read. Beautiful and unsettling in equal measure. The bellwether mirror. 18th century. Your uncle was quite insistent you have it. He left a note. The envelope was yellowed with age. My name written in my uncle's shaky handwriting. Inside, a single sentence. Don't look after midnight. Primera, la jugide. Uncle Richard had always been dramatic, filling my childhood with ghost stories and warnings about black cats and broken mirrors. This was probably his final joke. I'll take it, I said. The mirror arrived in my apartment 3 days later. The delivery men struggled with its weight, cursing as they maneuvered it through my doorway. On day left, I stood before it, admiring my reflection. The glass was old, slightly warped, giving everything a dreamlike quality. The silver frame felt cold under my fingers, and those carved faces seemed to shift in my peripheral vision. But in direct light, they were just faces, dozens of theme, each unique, each frozen in what looked like surprise or fear. I hung it in my bedroom, opposite my bed. It made the room look bigger, more elegant. That night, I remembered my uncle's note. Don't look after midnight. At 11:47 p.m., I stood before the mirror in my pajamas, studying in my reflection. I looked tired. The stress of inheriting an estate, dealing with lawyers, sorting through a dead man's possessions, it showed. In the dark, circles under my eyes. I watched the clock on my nightstand tick toward midnight. 11:58 p.m. My reflection watched back. 11:59 p.m. This is stupid, I said aloud. My reflection's lips moved in perfect sync, lest dosa hum, nothing happened. I laughed at myself, at my uncle's superstitious nonsense, and turned away. As I climbed into bed, I glanced back at the mirror one final time. My reflection was still standing. I froze. Slowly, I raised my hand. My reflection didn't move. It just stood there, staring at me with my own eyes, wearing my own face, but somehow wrong. The expression wasn't quite right, too intense, too focused. Okay, I whispered. Okay, this is just, I'm tired. Seeing things. I closed my eyes, counted to 10, and looked again. My reflection was closer to the glass now, not by much, maybe a foot, but definitely closer. And it was smiling. I wasn't smiling. My heart hammered against my ribs. I wanted to run, to leave the room, but I couldn't look away. The reflection tilted its head, studying me like I was the reflection, and it was real. Then it pressed its hand against the glass from the inside. The mirror rippled, like water. I ran, grabbed my phone and keys, and didn't stop until I was in my car. Doors locked, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. I drove to a 24-hour diner and sat in a booth until sunrise, drinking coffee and trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. By 7 a.m., logic had reasserted itself. Stress, hallucination, sleep, deprivation. Maybe carbon monoxide. I'd read about that, causing hallucinations. I'd call someone to check the apartment. When I returned home in full daylight, the mirror looked perfectly normal. My reflection behaved exactly as it should. I even tested it, making random movements, and everything synced perfectly. You're losing it, Primera told myself. But that night, I covered the mirror with a bedsheet before sleeping. At 3:33 a.m., I woke to the sound of fabric sliding against glass. The bedsheet lay crumpled on the floor, into mirror. My reflection stood at the glass, both palms pressed against it from the inside. I could see something else, a room that wasn't my bedroom. Dark, vast, with shapes moving in the shadows. My reflection's mouth opened. No sound came out, but I could read its lips. Let me out. I grabbed the bedsheet and covered the mirror again, weighing it down with books. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I called the lawyer. Mr. Pemberton, I need to know more about this mirror. My uncle's note. Yes. I was hoping you wouldn't call. He sighed heavily. Your uncle acquired that mirror at an estate sale in 1962. The previous owner had, well, there was an incident. She was found dead in front of it, though the coroner ruled it natural causes, heart attack. And your uncle became obsessed with it, claimed he could see things in it. Other places, other people. He kept detailed journals, if you're interested. There, in the house, I drove to Millbrook that afternoon. Uncle Richard's house was a Victorian nightmare. All dark wood and heavy curtains. His study was worse walls, covered in newspaper clippings, photographs, and handwritten notes, connected by red string, like a conspiracy theorist's fever dream. But it was the journals that made my blood run cold. Entry after entry, spanning decades, all about the mirror. Uncle Richard had been meticulous, documenting every strange occurrence, and there were patterns. The mirror showed other places after midnight, sometimes other people versions of himself that weren't quite right, and the longer he owned it, the more the reflections tried to communicate. The final entry was dated 3 days before his death. It's not showing me other places anymore. It's showing me where I'll go. I saw myself in there tonight, but I was dead. Eyes open, mouth frozen in a scream. The things behind me in that dark place. I can't let them out. I won't look again. Won't. Won't. The coroner had ruled his death a heart attack. But according to his neighbor's testimony, which I found in the newspaper clippings, Uncle Richard had been found in front of the mirror, eyes wide open, face locked in an expression of absolute terror. I should have destroyed it then, smashed it, burned it, buried the pieces. But I didn't. Because that night, when I stood before the covered mirror at 11:55 p.m., I wanted to know, needed to know what Uncle Richard had seen, what was real and what was madness. At midnight, I pulled away the sheet. My reflection stood in that dark place now. The room behind it was clear as stone walls, torches, and dozens of other reflections. People in different clothes, from different eras, all trapped behind the glass, all pressing their hands against it, mouths open in silent screams. My reflection turned away from me and looked at them. Then it looked back, and its expression was one of profound sadness. It mouthed 4 words. We were all you. The glass rippled. The reflection reached through, its hand emerging into my bedroom like it was pushing through thick water. Its fingers were ice-cold as they wrapped around my wrist. It pulled. I tried to resist, but the grip was impossibly strong. The mirror's surface felt like gelatin against my face as I was dragged toward it. I could see the dark place beyond, smell the dampness and decay, hear the whispers of all those trapped reflections. At the last second, I grabbed the mirror's frame and pulled with everything I had. The carved faces under my fingers were warm, moving. Their mouths opened and closed, and I realized they weren't decorations. They were warnings. I yanked myself backward, breaking free. The reflection's hand slid back through the glass, and the surface solidified instantly. But I'd felt it, the pull of that place, the hunger of it. I covered the mirror and called a priest. The next morning, he came, performed a blessing, said prayers in Latin. The mirror remained inert throughout. It's just glass and silver, he said finally. Whatever you experience, it wasn't demonic, perhaps psychological. After he left, I stood before the covered mirror, knowing what I had to do. I couldn't destroy it. Uncle Richard's journals had documented others who'd tried. The mirror was indestructible, or at least no one had found a way to break it. Fire didn't touch Italiano. Hammers bounced off the glass. So I did what Uncle Richard should have done. I donated it to a museum, with explicit instructions that it never be displayed, only stored. I included his journals, his research, everything. The curator who accepted it was young. She thanked me profusely for such a generous donation. We'll take excellent care of it, she promised, though I don't understand why you don't want it displayed. It's magnificent. Just promise me, I said. Never uncover it after midnight. Say, Ismail. Of course. Of course. I left feeling lighter, like I'd shed a terrible weight. That was 6 months ago. Last week I saw a news story. A curator at the Millbrook Museum had died suddenly. Heart attack, they said. Found in the storage room at 3 a.m., though no one knew why she'd been there so late. They found her in front of a covered mirror. I haven't slept well since, because last night I looked in my bathroom mirror, and for just a moment, just a split second, my reflection didn't move when I did, and in the background, barely visible, I could see stone walls and torches. The mirror is gone, but I think it marked me, left something behind, a connection. Every reflective surface is a doorway now, and I'm terrified of what might step through. and I'm terrified of what might step through.